Mass power, it means the masses, the people, will be behind the struggle for economic freedom in our lifetime. It means that the land struggle will find resonance with our people. That is what it is. The revolution needs numbers. We need, in a revolution, size matters. I don't know where it doesn't matter, but in a revolution, the number of people who follow the revolution matters. So it is important that we must have an organization that exists everywhere so that we can have mass power. Mass power is going to give us political power. What is political power? It's what we partially have now. Participation in councils, in legislatures, in parliament. But if we have got majority of the people behind us, we are going to then take over political power. We will then be able to introduce legislation and constitutional amendments that are going to achieve all these things that we say we are achieving. And that is now taking state power. And then we use the state power to take economic power. Economic power is to take back the land, is to nationalize the mines, banks, and other strategic sectors of the economy. Because we have to amend the nonsensical Section 25 of the Constitution. We have to amend the sell-out positions of the ruling party. There's no other way to say it, comrades, that South Africa's transition, South Africa's so-called democracy, was achieved through some sell-out collaboration with the white capitalist establishment. That is what it is. We can praise Nelson Mandela for whatever he has done and all of those things, but at his latter age, and later on when they were busy looking for political power, they compromised the center of the struggles of black people, which is the land question. And we must say that we were sold out on the land question. And that must change. That is why Section 25 of the Constitution currently says no one may be deprived of property except in terms of law of general application. And that property may be expropriated only in terms of law of general application for a public purpose or in the public interest, and subject to compensation, the amount of which and the time and manner of payment of which have either been agreed to or by those affected or decided or approved by court. That is the political document. That is a political settlement which was reached that says that if we want to take back our land, it must be subject to compensation. They've been compensating the land. They've been taking the land, they've been paying. But what do we have now? 26 years of democracy. We have a situation where only 8% of the land was bought from white people by the democratic government. A government which is supposed to protect everyone. 8% in 26 years. So it means that in 52 years, it will be 16%. The 30% will be achieved in 100 years' time. Now, comrades, here's one thing which all of us must appreciate in terms of our understanding that we must never ever compromise the unity and the coherence, the strength of the organization, because it is the only fighting tool in the hands of black people, not only in South Africa, but in the entire African continent and diaspora. There's never been a revolutionary, militant, fearless organization than the EFF, which is relentlessly and fearlessly fighting for black people's liberation. Why? Because everywhere black people are found, are a lesser race, was still treated with disdain. We do not have control of our own economies. We do not have control of our own land. If the world economy is worth 100 rands, black people do not even account for 1 rand of that global economy. We are still suppliers of cheap and easily disposable labor. And every time we say, do you want the land? You say, no, I don't want the land, I want a job. You want to continue to be the slaves of the white capitalist establishment. Even the philosophy of the current government is to say, let us go and look for white people to come and invest, to employ us as slaves. Because when Ramaphosa is going around saying he's looking for investments, he's not going to speak to black people out there in the world. He is there to look for whites to come and enslave us further. We don't have our land. We don't have our land, and that is one issue that we must look into. 7 years into existence, the EFF is making strides in terms of the land question. Let us continue to build the organization even during these difficult times of COVID-19 lockdowns. Let us continue to reproduce ourselves ideologically and politically. The task of every ground force of the EFF, the task of every revolutionary ground force, of every member, every leader of the EFF is ideological and political reproduction. We must reproduce ourselves. We do not want barren fighters and commissars. We want fighters that are going to reproduce themselves so that we can illustrate to the entire world that black people can emancipate themselves. And we can only do so once we've got access to the land. When we speak later on about the development of the African economy, we're going to illustrate to you that the entire African economy is possibly the same size as France's economy only. And how does France get to that position? Because of the wealth that they've taken from Africa. Our land, our minerals continue to be looted. And we act like there is nothing wrong about that. So comrades, this was a presentation of the land question to contextualize the EFF founding manifesto as part of celebrating the 7 years existence of the economic freedom fighters. I think we have dealt justice for this inaugural lecture, and we're going to then listen to all the other commissars, the leadership of the EFF. We're going to speak to all the pillars. But also, we must constitute platforms at sub-regional, regional, branch, provincial levels where we interact in terms of these questions. We must, all of us, interact on all the cardinal pillars so that we understand the struggle for economic freedom in our lifetime. Thank you very much, comrades, for joining us for this session. We are sure that we will further interact on various other questions. These are ongoing discussions. And one thing that is important about political education is that it is constant. Immediately you plug yourself off the political education content, you are going to believe and want to reason through so-called common sense, which majority of the times is common nonsense. So don't trap yourself into some lily white fears that if we take our land, we're going to be like Zimbabwe. We're not going to be like Zimbabwe in the manner in which it was handled in any way. Zimbabwe was worsened by the imperialist interventions and interference that got to destabilize a land program which otherwise is not worth emulating because it was not founded on values of socialism. Our struggle for land reform is squarely located within the struggle, the socialist struggle for economic freedom in our lifetime. We've already said that this is consistent with our Marxist, Leninist, and Fanonian perspective in terms of the land question. Comrades, let us continue to engage in terms of these questions. Thank you very much for joining us. We will meet in the next engagements. The next lecture which is coming is going to be focusing on nationalization of mines, banks, and other strategic sectors of the economy as a cardinal pillar for economic freedom in our lifetime. Thank you very much for joining us. Amanda.